What people are not telling you about the Caris LeVert trade. Recently, the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to acquire Caris LeVert in return for Ricky Rubio, a lottery-protected first-round pick, and 2 second-round picks. And in my opinion, this deal is an absolute steal for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm shocked they were able to get LeVert for that cheap. But before we get into the rest of the video, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, please consider hitting that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic.
Caris LeVert is one of the most underrated players in the NBA in my opinion. He's only 27 years old, and offensively he has a capability of putting up 25 points per game every single night. He's that talented offensively. And when you look at his statistics, what he's been doing ever since he's gotten into the NBA, he's been improving each and every season, which is exactly what you want to see from a young player. And really ever since the 2019 NBA season, when he was still playing with Brooklyn, he averaged around 19 a game and really never looked back ever since that season. I don't necessarily think people realize how good of an offensive talent this guy really is. And originally when the Indiana Pacers received Caris LeVert in that 3-team deal where James Harden went to Brooklyn, I originally thought at the time that the Pacers getting LeVert was an absolute steal for them because they basically didn't give up anything and they got such a nice young talent in Caris LeVert. But just around a season later, the Pacers are trading LeVert away, and in my opinion, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the new team that are getting an absolute steal in LeVert. It's just kind of crazy to me that all these teams are basically just giving Caris LeVert away. I understand the Cavs did give up a first-round pick and Ricky Rubio, who's been pretty good for them, although he is injured for the rest of the year. But the first-round pick is lottery protected, and it is 2 second-round picks as well. But in my opinion, I don't think the value that Caris LeVert has is anywhere near what the Cavaliers gave up. But besides the actual trade details, how does Caris LeVert actually fit with the Cavaliers? So in my opinion, I think LeVert is going to fit in perfectly with Cleveland and exactly what they want to do. The Cavs have obviously been very impressive this season, led by guys in Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. Kevin Love has been playing pretty well for them as well. There's been so many different players on this Cavs roster that have been playing extremely well for them, and is the reason why they're playing so well as a unit. And I think adding a guy like LeVert to this organization and roster is going to help them out so significantly. I think when you talk about Darius Garland and Caris LeVert going forward for the Cavs, I think they're going to be a very dangerous 1-2 punch for the Cavs. When you talk about what Darius Garland is able to do, of course he's more so of a catch and shoot 3-point guy and more so of a 3-point oriented player that also has the ability to drive to the basket, of course, and of course is also a fantastic passer and playmaker, can run the pick and roll or pick and pop. But what I'm trying to say is he's more perimeter oriented. But when you look at a guy in Caris LeVert, he's more of a guy who drives all the way to the basket, has a nice mid-range game, of course has the ability to shoot from that 3-point range, and really has been improving that 3-point shot ever since he's gotten into the NBA, but more so of a guy who drives all the way to the basket. And honestly, I think the fact that both of these guys play kind of opposite of each other is going to benefit each other very well going forward. When Caris LeVert has a ball in his hand and is running the pick and roll or pick and pop situation, or even just isolating and driving all the way to the basket and gets the defense to collapse on him, he's always going to have the ability to kick out to a guy in Darius Garland for an easy catch and shoot 3-point shot. And of course, Darius is a fantastic catch and shoot 3-point shooter, so he's going to hit that more likely than not. And on the other hand, when Darius Garland is running the pick and roll, pick and pop, or just isolating and creating for himself, Caris LeVert is always going to have the ability to maybe do a little bit of a backdoor cut, drive all the way to the basket, and Darius is a fantastic passer and playmaker, and he's always going to find him cutting to the basket for an easy dunk or layup. And of course, Caris LeVert is no slouch from that 3-point range at this point. If Darius is driving all the way to the basket or anybody else and the defense collapses on him, he certainly has the ability to kick out to Caris, and Caris certainly has the ability at this stage in his career to hit that catch and shoot 3-point shot. Although of course he's not super effective from there, he has the ability to do so. And also, even besides them playing together, those two guys, I think him and Mobley are going to play very well together in the pick and roll or pick and pop situation. And I think when Darius comes off the court, maybe you keep in Caris LeVert running with the second unit a little bit as well. And I think he's going to have a phenomenal time playing with those guys as well, just being the main player and just getting buckets with that second unit. Honestly, right away, I could easily see the Cavs having Caris LeVert coming off the bench and being that 6th man of the year type guy for them, just course, an absolute scoring punch coming off the bench, but eventually I think he will get into that starting lineup with Darius. But no matter how you play him, either in the starting lineup or coming off the bench, I think it's going to work very well for the Cavs going forward, and I'm certainly very excited to see what Caris could do with this Cavs roster going forward. And of course, I'm also very excited to see what the Cavs themselves could do as a team going forward. I think they're so talented going forward, and going into the playoffs, the moves that they were able to make, I think are certainly very beneficial to them, and I certainly think the Cavs are not just a first round playoff exit. I think they're a lot more than that. Basically, a few weeks ago, when everybody knew the Cleveland Cavaliers were certainly a very good regular season team, they were getting a lot of comparisons to the New York Knicks of last year. What the Knicks were able to do last year was completely surprise everybody, and they actually went to the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. Certainly a very good team and a huge surprise. And the reason why a lot of people were comparing this year's Cavs team to last year's Knicks team is the Cavs are also very impressive, and it was a huge surprise as well. Nobody expected the Cavs to be this good this season. But honestly, in my opinion, I don't necessarily think the Cavs are the New York Knicks of last year, because I think the Cavs are actually a much better team than the Knicks were last year. The Knicks, of course, had a great season during the regular season, but once they went to the playoffs, they got absolutely crushed by the Atlanta Hawks. But honestly, I think once the Cavs make it to the playoffs, I think they have a legitimate chance, and honestly, I think I would expect them to at the very least win a first round playoff matchup. And I think especially the move of adding a guy in Caris LeVert certainly reinforces that theory that the Cavs are certainly going to try to win a few playoff games and at the very least win one playoff series. But the really exciting thing, at least to me personally, is of course the Cavs are very good this year, but when you actually look at the main core that the Cavs have, they're basically all very young players, and you would expect the Cavs to get better each and every season. So just imagine how good this Cavs team could really be in the next 5 seasons or so. And especially after this trade for Caris LeVert, he is 27 years old and a little older than a lot of other guys and the main core, but at the same time he is still relatively young. But overall, I think the Cavs got an absolute steal in LeVert. I guess if you had to say one downside would be LeVert's contract does end after the season, and the Cavs will need to make a decision if they want to pay him or not. And if they do let him go, I guess they would have lost a first round pick. It was protected, but I guess you would lose the first round pick on paper at least. So that wouldn't necessarily be great, but at the same time, I think the Cavs probably should re-sign him long term, and I think he would be a very nice fit next to a lot of these guys on this Cavs team. But we'll see what happens going forward with the Cavs in the playoffs hopefully, and what happens with Caris LeVert and how he actually fits in with this roster. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Who do you think won this trade deal for Caris LeVert? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy it, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic. Hope you can't go where I'm headed.